I still don't understand why they released a Chinese New Year character after Chinese New Year has ended. Makes no sense to me, but I digress. So I'm back with another video where I tested the character for a week and I'm ready to show you the results. There's actually a very interesting result under the Rin vs Ann section. So as always, we're gonna start with her kit first. So her A0, she'll evolve her melee attack to Yanhua Slash, and this Yanhua Slash will deal damage to targets and can activate Fire Technical. Fire Technical activates when you use a fire move on characters that have elemental ailments. Then specifically for Fire Rin, if it's a Fire Burn Technical, it's gonna increase the technical effect to 20%, up from 2%. Her skill 1 does AoE damage and increase her crit rate by 10% for 2 turns. And then for 1 turn, her Yanhua Slash will deal more fire damage. Her skill 2 is also an AoE fire damage, but it has a 90% chance to inflict burn and 90% chance to inflict the year-end flame stack for 2 turns. The year-end flame stack is basically a DOT that scales on Fire Rin's attack, and it can stack up to 4 times. And then for 1 turn also, Yanhua Slash has 90% chance to inflict the year-end flame stack. Her skill 3 will increase her damage and evolve her melee attack to Yanhua Slash, and this Yanhua Slash will be gone after the end of the turn, so after you use the move. And this skill does have a 1 turn cooldown, and Yanhua Slash will do AoE fire damage and can activate technicals. The highlight is an AoE fire move that will increase her own attack and damage dealt for 2 turns. Her first passive will increase her damage when she does damage to foes that have burn. Her second passive will increase her own attack by 2 turns at the start of battle. Then when she or other allies activate technical, the effect's duration will reset and then will increase the effect to 51%, so it's more attack buff. The 4-star weapon increases her own attack, and then also increases the attack when she uses Yanhua Slash. Her 5-star weapon increases also attack, and then when her skill 3 is active, increase crit rate by 16%, and then you increase damage when you do technical. Her A1 reduces the first cooldown time of skill 3 by 1 turn, so you can use it immediately when the battle starts. Then extend skill 3 by 1 turn, so it now lasts for 2 turns. Then the Yanhua Slash can be activated up to 2 times, and when skill 3 is active, her skill 1 and skill 2 gets a buff. Her skill 1 will increase the crit damage of her melee attack by 40%, then the skill 2 will allow Yanhua Slash to inflict 1 more year-end flame stack. When the Fire Rin is present, and for each foe that appears, you permanently inflict burn, and when the burn is removed, you immediately replace the burn with another burn, and this effect has 2 turns, so this is basically perma-burn. Then during battle, when one foe is inflicted with burn, you increase Fire Rin's crit rate by 10%, and for each additional foe inflicted with burn, you increase 3% more crit rate, up to a maximum of 16%. For A4, after she uses highlight, her crit damage will increase by 15% for 2 turns. Then her highlight buff will now last for 4 turns instead of 2 turns. A6 makes her skill 3 permanent. Then you evolve the Yanhua Slash to Liu Xing Slash, then increase the damage dealt by 80%. Skill 3 is not removed even after you use the melee attack, and skill 1 also permanently maintains the crit rate increase and the enhanced effects on Liu Xing Slash. And the duration for skill 2's burn and enhanced effects on Liu Xing Slash are extended by 1 turn. This A6 allows you to just spam the melee attack because the skill 3 is permanent. For our cards, the best card will be the Acceptance and Strife, the same card as Ann. As for substats, it's a very typical DPS stuff. I'm gonna focus on attack percent, damage multiplier for main stat for Moon, Sky is gonna be attack percent, Star is gonna be the crit rate or crit multiplier. If you're overcap on crit, just run crit multiplier main stat. Substats is a very typical DPS, also crit rate, crit multiplier, PS rate, damage multiplier, attack percent. Then for rotation, it's gonna be 3 different rotations. A0 is gonna be 1, 3 plus attack, then repeat for 2 more times. A1 is gonna be 1, 3 plus attack, and then attack. Then you repeat. It's because the skill 3 now lasts for 2 turns, so you can use the immediate attack 2 times. For A6, it's gonna be very different. You're gonna start with a skill 3 plus skill 1, which gives you the permanent skill 1 buff, which is the crit rate and damage buff. Then starting turn 2, you just spam melee attack because your skill 3 and your skill 1 buff are permanent. As for team, her best partner is definitely gonna be Matoi, because Matoi buffs technical damage and Rin also does technical damage. Then the other slot, it depends. If you need sustain, you can run Twins Medic, Sawamoko, Cherish, any of them works well. Or if you don't need sustain, you can just run a Twins support strategies. Or even like Tempest Wind also if you want. Navigator, Wind, Futaba, Phoebe, all that works. As for Dagger, as of right now, Ex Machina is generally the better option. The Purgatory Dagger is only better if it's R3, and even if you use a Purgatory Dagger, you need to run Howler or another fire character, and that fire character has to attack every turn, because you need 2 fire attacks per turn in order to fully activate the dagger, which is at the 3 stacks. Then for Persona, for A0 and A1 Fire Rin, Throne is pretty much compulsory for the burn, so it's a must-have. Outside of Throne, any general buffing or debuffing Persona is good. Something like Cert, Dionysus, Dominion is a 5-star weapon worth it. I'll just show you the table, and I honestly don't have much to say because this is a very typical range for the 5-star weapon increase over the 4-star. It's about 10 to 15%, very typical. So it's up to you if you think it's worth it. The 5-star weapon generally is not bad. It allows you to hit the crit cap easier, and also buff attack and damage. So next up, do you need Matoi? Because a lot of people often say that you need Matoi if you're using Fire Rin, and I'll just show you the data here. Matoi is not 100% required for Fire Rin to do damage. It is an increase, but Howler works just fine. The only thing that's compulsory for Fire Rin is burn. Matoi is not compulsory burn, it's a buff. MLD is about 13%, not bad, but for DOD it's a massive 27% increase. The reason for this is because Matoi's enhanced skill 3 can last for the entire 2 weakened turns. For MLD it's going to be 2 out of 6 turns, so that's why it is a bigger increase here. Now on to the most interesting part of the video. I mentioned in the intro, this section super interesting. I'll just show you the table right now. You will immediately see this, right? Very interesting results. Took me a while to understand why, so let's just go through them first. In general, MLD, Rin is gonna be better than Ann by a decent chunk. Maybe I'll put it 15 to 30%. Okay, maybe 15 to 20% if it's not Matoi. Maybe 25 to 30% if it's Matoi. But if you look at DOD, the results are very different. Matoi is still a good increase, 21%. No surprises there. Matoi enhances technical, Rin does technical damage. Makes sense for Matoi to work better with Rin compared to Ann. But these two very strange results. You might think that is an error from my part, which is what I thought at first, but no. There's actually something more going on, which I'll explain a bit later, but let's take a look at the Howler. You can see that Ann somehow outperforms Rin. It's slightly. This can vary due to like damage variance. This one also possible due to damage variance, but you can kind of assume that it's about the same level. They are about the same for DOD outside the Matoi team. And what's even crazier is that this A6R0 Ann outperforms A0 4-star weapon Rin. So these two numbers here, they outperform Rin 4-star weapon. I also included my A4R0 Ann testing here. Unfortunately, I should have done this for MLD also, but I didn't thought about it. But even for A4 Ann, these two, they are pretty close to Rin. Now time to explain why Ann does more damage, or about the same damage as Rin. To understand that, I actually did some damage calculations, and after doing them, it becomes pretty obvious why. So before we look at the final damage, we just look at the total here. You can see that the total for Ann, everything is higher except for crit rate, because Ann doesn't get any crit rate buff, only Rin. But everything else, Ann is better. And the funny thing is, just something extra, the weapon somehow gives 6 points more attack than Rin, which is strange. And Ann being A6 means that she has a higher base attack than Rin. So these two tables are only for one specific action. Rin is going to be enhanced melee attack, Ann is going to be enhanced skill 3. So it's just for one single attack, which is all I need to understand why Rin is about the same as Ann for DOD outside Matoi team. Let me just give you a disclaimer here. The numbers here are not meant to compare 1 to 1. This is a very simplified damage calculation. The real thing is much more complicated than this, but this should still give you an idea on why the results are what they are. So do not compare them like 1 to 1. Do not assume like 2 times stronger for 3 times stronger or that. It's only just for like a reference and to understand. Let me review to you the final damage. So yes, Ann does more damage because she gets more buff. Then you're probably wondering, if Ann does more damage, then why is Rin better in MLD than Ann? Because there's a clear increase even for a Howler key team for Rin. And to answer that, the reason is because Ann's burst damage potential is higher. In DOD, only 2 turns matter, and half of the turn is gonna be Ann's massive burst damage. You can just take a quick look. A highlight lasts for 1 turn only, and a highlight is actually very strong, gives you damage percent and attack percent. But A1 only lasts for 1 turn, A6 lasts for 1 turn. Enhanced state, the roll state, only lasts for 1 turn. Everything lasts for 1 turn. Then when you look at Rin, highlight lasts for 2 turns. And everything else is like an effect that triggers itself. Or effects that the melee attack will get anyways. Like for example, the skill 1 is 1 turn only for the damage buff. The crit rate is 2 turns, but the damage buff is 1 turn. But the very next turn, you're gonna use a melee attack anyways. So I don't really count this as like burst damage. Then everything else is like permanent stuff. You know, Ann has like 4 things that triggers only for 1 specific turn. So to try and prove my point, what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna remove the numbers for the highlight. The highlight only lasts for 1 turn. So if you assume we are on turn 4 and we don't have a highlight, which means that I will have to remove the highlight here, right? On 1 turn. So if I remove it, you'll see the number drops a lot. Drops below Rin now. So it kind of shows you that a burst damage potential is insane. The highlight is an insane buff. 100% attack, almost 83% damage up. So I was assuming turn 4, right? In turn 4, we don't even use an enhanced skill 3. Because on turn 4, you usually use an enhanced skill 1 to buff the attack. Because we need to refresh the attack buff duration from skill 1. So the damage is going to be even lower. So at least that's why I think A6R0 Ann is about the same as A0R0 Fire Rin in DoD outside a Matoi team. For Matoi team is very different obviously because Matoi buffs technical, which means that Rin will do more damage because there's more technical damage. So I thought this was very interesting to share. I could be wrong on this one. There could be another reason why Ann is better, but I think this reason makes a lot of sense. Ann has big burst damage and DoD favors big burst damage. On to the section where I talk about my experience in using this character. I have quite a few things to say, so I'll start with the bad things first. The first one is, a synergy with Futaba is a bit awkward, because on turn 3, Rin will use skill 1, so not a melee attack, and Futaba will use a skill 3, so it becomes awkward. And it's not like Frost Galmont, where you can just do 1-2, 1-2-3, or 1-2-2, 1-3, because Frost Galmont's ball is going to be a single target. Skill 2 is single target. You can use Futaba's skill 2 with Fire Rin, because Fire Rin is a sweeper, and her job is to do AoE damage. So Futaba's skill 2 will not work, so it becomes a little bit awkward. One more bad thing I want to say is that she really needs burn. I wouldn't say it's a big problem. It kinda is, you know, unique to her that she needs burn, because so many characters have this mechanic. But yeah, burn is very needed, because it activates technical, activates her passives, allows her to do more damage. So that's really the only bad things I'm gonna say about her. She's overall like a character that does damage, I guess. She struggles a little bit with DoD, because her burst damage isn't as high as Ann, but for long fights, 6 turns, she would outperform. Now onto the good stuff. When we compare her with Ann, Rin is way easier to use. She is so much straightforward, because she has the ability to control when she uses her enhanced melee attack. Meanwhile for Ann, you cannot control that. I mean, you technically can, but you have to make your rotation super specific, which is a little bit tough, because you need to get 4 passion stacks to get the roll state. And to get the 4 passion stacks, you need to use fire move to attack 4 enemies. And you ideally want to trigger Ann's enhanced state on turns 2, 4 and 6. But on the first turn, you cannot even use an AoE fire move, or else you will force the roll state on the first turn, which is not what you want. So should you pull Firecracker Rin? Honestly, there is only one condition where I would recommend pulling, and that's if you are Matoi. Because the combination of Matoi and Fire Rin is going to be better than any combination of Ann and whoever, because Matoi buffs a good amount. So for this, I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. Now if you already have A6R0 Ann, I honestly wouldn't recommend getting Fire Rin, because like I showed, while there is a decent increase for MLD and 6 turns, for DoD it's not a big increase if you don't have Matoi. And for MLD, the increase also isn't that big where I would justify pulling for this character. It's not like Frost Galmont, because from my testing, Frost Galmont is 2 times better than an A6R0 full red. Maybe I would recommend that, because it's a big increase. For Rin and Ann is only like at most maybe 30%, not too big. And I would rather you save your gems and pull for another character that has no overlapping type and roll. And for this case, it's gonna be Fire Sweeper. So if you already have A6R0 Ann, 3 out of 10. I don't recommend. Now for the general pull rating, if you pull this character, it will actually bring much value to your account. And assume if you have like maybe A2, A3, A4 Ann, would she help your account much? Overall, yes, but not a lot. And I honestly wouldn't recommend pulling this character, because I already mentioned, I wouldn't really pull for the character of the same role and same type that we can get for free. So the final pull rating for Firecracker Rin, 4 out of 10.